Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
In yesterday class, basically what we discussed, how to solve the system so that we can reduce a continuous system to a single degree of freedom system using shape function, and further how we can actually get the response of a continuous system. Okay. The next step what we would be doing it today, let me show you. If you remember, till now we have done examples of a single frame building, something like this, right? In which we assume that the total mass of the roof is actually concentrated at the floor level. Okay. And we assume that the beams and columns are actually rigid and beams are also flexure. What that reduces the number of degrees of freedom to 1 with just this, okay, to represent the deformation or the displaced position of this single story frame. Okay, now we have now learned how to use the shape function to analyze a continuous beam or a column. What I would like to see whether I can utilize the same method to also analyze a system which is not modeled as a continuous system, but a system which has lot of lumped masses. For example, let me give you example of this building here. So I have this building, okay, a multi-story building. In this multi-story building, I have different floors here. Okay. We are going to do multi-degree of freedom analysis, and in that we are going to exactly solve this. So we are going to find out the mode shapes, exactly what are the exact mode shapes. However, we saw that we can also assume mode shape or per se the shape function to represent the deflected shape. Okay, and then find out the response. Okay, so my question to you is, can we somehow reduce this system, or can we somehow find the response of the system using single degree of freedom analysis? Single degree of freedom analysis. Okay, and we will see how to do that. Okay, so any idea how we can do that? Again, I have to assume some deflected shape, because see, whenever I'm reducing a continuous system or a lumped mass system to a single degree of freedom system, I have to represent the deflected shape, okay, or the deflected shape body to a shape function so that I can reduce to single degree of freedom system. Okay, that is what we do for a multi-story building as well, in which we say if it is a shear type building, and I'll describe what is a shear type building. A shear type building is a building in which basically the beams are actually rigid and they are also flexurally rigid. Okay, so that they do not have any flexure degree of freedom. So what happens in this case, if beam is actually rigid, whatever the degree of freedom of this would be the degree of freedom of this. So all horizontal degree of freedom can be represented using a single degree of freedom like this. Similarly, at the second level, all degrees of freedom can be represented using a single degree of freedom, and so on. So the deformation in a shear type building, it looks like something like this. If this is the initial, so let us say we lumped all the floor masses here at the center. Okay, the deflected shape would look like something like this. Okay, and each of these would represents the deflection at different levels. Okay, so let me write this one as U1, this is as U2, U2. Okay. This one as so on, and this one someone as uj, and then finally if it is an n-story building it would be okay. This is now what happens. The deflection at different levels are not as a continuous function but as a discrete function. And then what do we do for this multi-story building? We actually represents at any level, let us say uj as phi j times, just give me a second here, something wrong. So remember, if you remember from the continuous system, my phi or my u of x of t used to be written as phi of x times z of t. Okay, and this was a continuous function. What we do in discrete system where the masses are more than one masses are lumped, but I still want to analyze as a single degree of freedom system, or I first want to reduce this to a single degree of freedom system. What I actually do, I write now this in terms of a vector. So what I say, at different levels, my uj is nothing but the shape coordinate times the generalized coordinate. And if I want to write it in terms of vector, this would be u1, u2, uj, un. This vector is nothing but phi 1, phi 2, phi j, and phi n times zt. Okay, so this is how I'm going to write my vector now. And there is, like, similarly whatever we did for a continuous system, we are going to do for the same thing. For example, I'll tell you, if you assume that this deflected shape looks like, let us say, a straight line. So the deflected shape, you assume that it looks like a triangular. Okay, so then how can I write? I mean, if you would have written in terms of a continuous function, you would have written phi x is equal to x, isn't it? If you assume it to be x. However, if it is a discrete system, okay, if it is a system which has lumped masses at different levels, 1, 2, and so on. Let us say there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 story. Okay, I can say that I can select my shape function such that if I assume the top to be, let us say, 1, then this one I can write it as 4 by 5, 3 by 5, 2 by 5. No, not going to work. Let me just, okay. Yeah, that's fine. This would be 1 by 5. Okay. So 1 by 5. So instead of writing as a continuous function where phi x is actually written as x, for a discrete system, I am going to write my vector phi, which is written as 1, okay, 4 by 5, all right, 3 by 5, or let us say if you're considering this to be u1, it's better to write the first coordinate here. So let us say this is 1 by 5, 2 by 5, and so on, 1. So this is now how I'm going to write the shape vector, now we call it, not the shape function. So this is my shape vector, not the shape function anymore for a discrete system. Okay. All right. So once that is known, so what happens at any level, the ui or uj, let us say, would be simply phi j times the coordinate zt. All right. And we are going to see how to get again the equivalent mass, equivalent stiffness, okay, and the frequency of a system that is composed of discrete masses, like we did for continuous masses. We are going to see how to get that for discrete masses. Okay, so to get that, let us first consider, in this case, I had this building here. Okay, or let me redraw again. So I have approximated this building as multiple levels here. Okay, something like this. I'm saying that this is going to deflect somewhat like this, similar to what we had done. Let us call this U1, U2, and then so on, Uj and Un. Okay. So the inertial force on each of these masses would be simply mass times the acceleration. And if you are saying that this is subject to a ground acceleration Ug of t, okay, I can say the acceleration at any level Uj of t is actually equal to the total acceleration is actual relative acceleration plus the ground acceleration. Okay, so here the inertial forces would be something like this at different levels. We'll call it F of inertial force at level J. So Fij, which would be simply equal to the mass at the jth level times the total acceleration at that level. Now, to analyze this kind of system, again, we are going to employ the same technique that we have used previously, where we are going to say that we are going to apply equivalent static force that produce the same displacement as the dynamic displacement. So we are going to say these forces are at different level Fsn, okay, Fsj and Fs1. All right. And before going into the derivation of equation of motion, like for a continuous system, if you remember, the work done was used to be the internal moment. For a shear type building, the work done is actually by the shear force at different stories. So if you have a story, let us say this is the building like this, and if you consider cut any story like this, remember that the building is going to deform something like this. Okay, so then what happens? Okay, let me just draw it like this. Whatever the deformation at different story is, it is called drift. So we are going to define a drift, story drift. Many times you would have heard story delta J, okay, which is basically the story drift. So this is the first level, this is the second story level, this is the third, and so on. Now delta J at any story J is basically Uj, the deformation at that level, and the level below, Uj minus 1. I'm not sure what is wrong this with this pen. There is too much of scribbling it is doing actually. Some software issue. I've changed the pen, but it is still doing the same thing. So let us just bear with it. Okay. So the story drift is defined as delta J equal to Uj equal minus Uj minus 1. Okay. And the shear force in any story, Vj, we are going to define the shear force is actually equal to the story stiffness K of J at jth level times the story drift, where Kj is basically, let us say you have multiple columns at that story. So you have like, these many columns here. Kj is basically sum of stiffnesses of all those columns at that level. Okay. And if you're considering fixed connection, then it would be basically sum of 12 EI by L cube. Okay. So this is how the story stiffness is defined. If you multiply this with the story drift, you are going to get the story shear. Okay. Now again, we are going to employ the principle of virtual displacement. And we are going to say, okay, that the work done by external forces is equal to work done by internal forces if I give a small deformation, virtual deformation del U. So what I'm saying that at this level, this is the deformation, uj here. I'm going to deform it by a small amount so that it becomes del uj. If this is delta, this is j here, z here, this becomes del z. Okay, so the external work done is being done by the inertial forces like previously we have said. So now what we are going to do, instead of the, because it is a discrete mass, instead of the integration sign, we are going to employ the summation sign. So at each level, the inertial force that is being applied, Fij, times the deformation that it is producing. And it is producing what deformation? Basically is the del uj. Okay, and that would be your virtual work done. Okay, so I'm going to write this as del uj, and internal work, as I said, is being done here by the shear forces that produces the story drift. So it would be shear force at the jth level, okay, times the virtual story drift. Okay, so the smallest story drift, that is, so del phi j, which would be equal to del uj minus del uj minus 1. Okay, so it would become equal to del uj and del uj minus 1. So all we need to do is to substitute the equations that we have derived. If you remember, my uj is nothing but phi j times z. Okay, del uj would become phi j times del z. Okay, so let us substitute this here. This would be equal to minus m. I'm going to write the Fij as mj, and total acceleration would be uj plus ug double dot times del ug, which would be equal to phi j times z. Okay, or not del z here, and that would be summation equal to Vj, which again is Kj times delta j, which is uj minus 1, and then del uj, which I can write it as phi j minus 1 times del z. Okay, so I can substitute again uj as phi j times del z, phi j times z. Okay, and bring it to everything to the one side. Okay, and I'm just going to write down the final expression also, because right now it is becoming very difficult for me to write here. Okay, and get the expression as m equivalent times z double dot t plus k equivalent times zt is equal to L equivalent times ug double t. This is the equation of motion that I'll get, where m equivalent, okay, instead of integration sign, now you have the summation sign. Okay, it would be mass at the jth story times the shape coordinate at the jth story square. J is equal to 1 to the number of stories here. Okay, k equivalent is actually again the same summation limits, and then here it would be kj times phi j minus 1. Okay, this whole square, and L equivalent is summation j equal to n. Okay, this is n phi j. All right, so if you look at this, somewhat this is similar to what you had already derived for a continuous system. Just compare this. Okay, so this is for a discrete system that we have just described, and if you compare this for the continuous system which we have been doing for the last two classes, okay, it was somewhat similar, isn't it? So it was in terms of integration over 0 to L. This was mx phi x square. Okay, K equivalent was EIX, okay, times phi double dash x square. So just in this case, K equivalent, you have to compare the phi j minus 1 with this quantity here, and EIX as your flexure rigidity. And L equivalent was 0 to L mx phi x. Okay, times dx here, and dx here would be there as well. Okay, so even if there is a discrete mass, I'm able to simplify a set of discrete masses or a multi-story building, okay, to a single story building with m equivalent and k equivalent, and now it becomes easier for me to analyze it. Okay, we would, however, in later chapters discuss the exact methods of analyzing it, but right now this is a very convenient method, that as long as you can assume the shape vector here, okay, that represents the deflection of this set of masses. If you can do that, you can reduce this multi-degree of freedom system to single degree of freedom system to analyze it further. Okay, any doubt up to this point, anybody? If not, remember, once you have the K equivalent and M equivalent, again we are going to get, again we can get that omega n square is K equivalent by M equivalent. Okay, so you can substitute those values here. Now, like what we did for the continuous system, we can also find out the peak seismic response for discrete system. So if a response spectra is given to me, okay, let us say A here, okay, or say this is D versus Tn. Okay, the procedure remains exactly similar. So in this case, I know that my uj at any, okay, so this would be uj of t, isn't it? At any level, uj of t is nothing but phi j times z of t. Now, if z of t I can obtain as L equivalent times the response subject to the ground motion uj double dot t, I'm going to write that as, let us say here, L equivalent times, or if the maximum value I have to write, I will simply write it as Z naught equal to, not sure what is wrong with this thing. Z naught equal to gamma times the A divided by omega n square, or let us first write down in terms of D. Okay, so that, and then we can write down in terms of acceleration. So this would be, okay, omega n square. Okay, we can do that and we can get the Z naught. If we get the Z naught, then we can also get the uj of naught. Okay, in fact, before doing that, let us do one thing. Okay, let us do an exercise. Okay, in the meantime, I'll just restart my computer so that I can fix this error. Okay, what I'm giving you, again the same thing. I'm telling you that there is a 5-story building. Okay, so what you have here is a 5-story building. Just assume the case that we had discussed here. Okay, you consider a 5-story building for which the shape factor is represented by this. Okay, and in that case, in that 5-story building, assume that the masses at each level are simply m. Okay, so at the first story, second story, third story, the masses are m, and the story stiffnesses are same as k at every level. Okay, what I need you to do, find me the equivalent mass and the equivalent stiffness of the equivalent single degree of freedom system and then get me the frequency of the system. Is the problem clear to all of you? I have a 5-story building and the 5 masses lumped at each level as M, M, and M. Okay. And the story stiffnesses at all the levels are K. The shape factor I'm going to represent is through this shape factor here. Okay. And then you need to find out using the expressions that we have derived here. Okay. These expressions, what is the mass equivalent, K equivalent, and then utilizing this, what is the frequency? Okay, please take 5 minutes to do that while I just try to fix this. So let us see. The problem is that you have 5-story building. Anybody who's got the answer? You need to write down the shape factor, which is basically 1/5. Apparently that has not fixed the pen problem, but anyway. I think I'll have to do some settings change in the pen settings, but I'll do that after the class. So let us just go on with this. Okay, so 2/3, 3/5, sorry, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and then finally 5/5, which is equal to 1. And then the way to do is that write down mj times the first model coordinate, which is m times 1/5 square, then m times 2/5 square. Okay, and then so on, m times 5/5, which is 1 square, and that will give you the m equivalent. Okay, how much does it come out to be? This m equivalent here, anybody?
2.2.
2. Okay, 2.2 m. Similarly, k equivalent you can also find out utilizing the same expression, kj times phi j minus 1 square, and this one basically would be m times, okay, 1/5 minus 0, no, sorry, yeah, and then m times 2/5 minus 1/5, and so on. Okay, and it will basically effectively become m times 5 times 1/5 square, isn't it? And that will give you k equivalent as k/5. So you can go ahead and find out omega n square as k/5 divided by m equivalent, which is 2.2 m. Okay, to find out what is your k equivalent, which comes out to be omega n as 0.3 k/m. Okay, so this is how we get the equivalent mass, equivalent stiffness, and equivalent frequency of a multi-story building idealized as a single-story building. Okay, some implementation of this type of method you might see in Indian code. Like if you have done a course where you have utilized IS 1893, okay, there you see that to distribute the shear, story shear, we assume either parabolic shape, parabolic distribution of the forces, or the linear distribution of the forces. Okay, where you utilize the equivalent static method. Okay, so whatever we are actually studying, these are actually applied in the practice in some way. Okay, and the application of this type of simplification is found in the equivalent lateral procedure that is given in seismic design codes, where the lateral forces need to be found out. Okay, so that brings me to the last topic, which is how to get the peak earthquake response of a multi-story building. Okay, now for the peak earthquake response, again the procedure is exactly similar what we did for a continuous system. Remember, for a continuous system, we said that I am going to represent this building. Okay, here multi-degree of freedom system. Okay, I'm going to apply equivalent lateral static forces. Okay, and those equivalent lateral static forces here can be written as phi j mj, phi j mj, okay, times, sorry, gamma j mj times phi j times a. Okay, and once you apply that at any level, your story shear Vj would be sum of all the static forces that are above. For example, if I cut this here, okay, I can sum this up, Fs at this level and Fs at this level and in between to get the story shear, isn't it? That would be just free body diagram. So it would be summation of all the Fsj where j in from I to n. So I am going to say that this is my story shear at the level I. So the total story shear would be sum of all the static forces, equivalent static forces above that. And the moment would be Mi would be sum j equal to m21. And then I have to take the moment of this one. And if I assume that the height at level j is represented, so let us say this is level j. If the height is represented as hj, this would be hj minus hi times fsj, where j varies from I to n. Okay. Don't worry about this scribbling right now. What I am going to do, I'm going to rewrite the whole thing and I'm going to post as a separate PDF so that it becomes easier for you to understand. Okay. So this will give me the moment. Now, if you're considering these values to be at the base of it, just put I equal to 0 and then you can get the base shear, which would be just the sum of all the equivalent static forces over all the stories, and the base moment would be again the same thing, sum of moments of due to all these static forces hj times fsj, where j is equal to 1 to n. Okay, and then you can utilize the same procedure that we have done, what we did for a continuous system. Okay, only thing is that now in this case we are considering discrete system. All right, now considering that we have already found out what is the frequency, what is the equivalent mass stiffness of this, let me give you some numerical value. Let us say that my mass here, okay, the m at each level is around 50,000 kgs. Okay, k is at each level 5,500 kilonewton per meter. Each story height is 4 meter. Okay, so this is the story height, not the total height, is 4 meter. Okay, and what you need to do, again utilize the same response spectra that we had discussed yesterday. So let me just go back to this and recopy this again here. Okay, so you already have found out omega n, find out what is Tn. For that Tn, okay, what you need to do, you have been asked to find out the base shear and the base moment of this multi-story building, okay, subject to the ground motion represented by this response spectra, okay, scale to again same 0.25 g. So whatever you get from here, just scale it by 0.25 g. Okay, and then you need to find out what is the base shear of this building. Okay, can you do that quickly for me? Just follow the exact procedure what we did yesterday, but now utilizing the equation for discrete system. Okay, and then we'll see that how we can analyze a multi-degree of multi-story building using just single degree of freedom analysis, and usually it is very accurate, compared to a very complicated analysis. It is actually the difference is not that much as long as your shape function is represented correctly. Okay, so follow the same procedure and get me the base shear. Remember, base shear is the most important thing in the design of the building because that is what distributes the forces at different levels and effectively gives you forces in different components for which they need to be designed. Okay, so take 5 minutes and solve this problem and get me the base shear. Anyone with the answer? What is the base shear? Okay, let us see how to do this problem. Now omega n, I have said that. Let us see what we got as omega n. Okay, in this case 0.3 times k by m. So this is 0.3 under root K by M. Okay. K I have given to you as 5,500 divided by 50,000. Okay. And I can go ahead. This is in terms of, I need to multiply this with 10 to the power 3. Okay. So this gives me a value of 3.16. And Tn, if I 2 pi by omega n, approximately this comes out to be around 2 seconds. Now, if I look at 2 seconds, this falls somewhere in between here. Okay. And it is given that what is the expression for the pseudo acceleration? Okay. It is 1.8 divided by, so A by G is actually 1.8 divided by Tn, which is 2 here. Right. Now this need to be scaled to 0.25 G response spectrum. So I need to multiply this with 0.25. Okay. And my acceleration becomes 1.8 divided by 2 times 0.25 times 9.806. Or first let us write in terms of G, then we can write down in terms of the value acceleration. So this one would give you the value of 0.226 times G. Okay. Once A is known to you, you can easily find out D as A divided by omega n square. Okay, to get the value of D, and that comes out to be approximately as 22.2 centimeters. Okay, once the D is known to you, what is the peak value of the generalized coordinate z0? It would be nothing but the factor gamma equivalent times D. Okay, and gamma equivalent, how do you get that? Gamma equivalent is nothing but L equivalent divided by M equivalent. L equivalent was phi j times mj, where j goes from 1 to n, divided by M equivalent. So you can substitute this and you can find out the value of gamma equivalent as 15 by 11. Okay. So at any level, the total deformation is just multiply the coordinate phi j times z0. Or you could also write this in terms of vector if you like. So what I'm saying, you could write this in terms of vector u, which would be the vector 1 by 5 so on 1 times z0, which you can get from here as, okay, you can get z0 from here as 30 centimeter. So this would give you the value of the vector u at different levels. You can get the displacement. Okay, now you can find out the equivalent static forces Fj not simply as gamma j, okay, or not gamma j, gamma equivalent times mj here, okay, and multiply with phi j and a. And you can, this also you can get it in terms of vector. Okay, you can find out what are those values. So basically it would come out to be 151 times the phi j vector, which you can write down in terms of, let us say, kilonewton. Okay, once that is there, the base shear, okay, the base shear VB would be simply what? It would be sum of all these quantities here. So it would be nothing but 151 times, just sum it up, and that would be the all the equivalent static forces acting above the base. If you sum it up, that will give you the base shear. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the final answer. So if you want to do this, get the answer on your own, you can compare this to it. Okay, I have got this around 450 kilonewtons. Okay, is the procedure clear to all of you? Any doubt in this? If not, then we are going to stop this class today. All right. Thank you.